Shalom. First thing and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and rule well. Peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect. News in the gospel, broadly from the understanding of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is just another lesson through the Spirit. This is kind of a quick piggyback from the lesson that the brothers had did on the live stream yesterday when they was going into basically basically the mark of the beast, the MOTB, and basically the concept or the talking point of this guy Peter Thiel came up, which is the co-founder of PayPal, which is essentially an app that deals with digital transactions and wire transfers, and just like your you got Cash App today, which PayPal is a little bit more security encrypted. It's a little bit more sophisticated because PayPal, you can actually get credit cards and you can get money back and all this other stuff. So it's heavily encrypted. But Peter Thiel is one of the co-founders of PayPal. As I believe the original founder was knocked off in 2023 when they was going into the whole concept of this. It was called FedNow, which was basically essentially a digital based back app, a digital app that was pretty much dealing with the new coming, what do you call it, the CBDCs, which stands for central bank digital currencies, and they was knocking off these CEOs of these particular inventions, man, because ultimately they wanted to be a one world government ruled by technocrats. And this guy Peter Thiel, followed by Alex Karp, you got Elon Musk, okay, all these Bill Gates, technocrats, man, which basically essentially want to rule the world. It's mass surveillance. And this is an interview. It says interesting times with Ross. I think his name is Ross. Ross Douthat, however the hell you pronounce it.
A little bit here.
About an hour interview, and
you have
45-minute mark.
Giving talks recently.
As this guy was basically calling his ass out, and Peter Thiel, he was basically backpedaling because overall, what the guy was saying essentially was on point, and he was bringing up the concept of an antichrist because the common Christian belief is that the antichrist or the antichrist is this one pseudo-religious dictator, is very charming, wears a black tuxedo, with a briefcase, and he's basically gonna speak peace into the inhabitants of the planet Earth, and then after 3.5 years, he's gonna bring what they considered the Great Tribulation and the mark of the beast, and the rapturers who believe in God would be raptured into heaven while all hell break loose on earth. When in fact, that's not scriptural. Okay, that's far from the scriptures. Scriptures doesn't say anything about a pre-tribulation rapture. And if you find that verse in the Bible, please do so. Text the precept and give the proper breakdown on it. Okay, you can't go to Thessalonians and use that because that's talking about at the time of this destruction that we're going to be beamed up into the clouds. Okay, which is essentially the ships of the Heavenly Father. So anyway, these devils are something else. And Peter Thiel is just another technocrat that's set up, in which he's a small head, by the way, but he's just set up to bring about certain talking points to get you to let your guard down. And he's no different, essentially, than Bill Gates. He's no different than Alex Karp. He's no different than this guy Elon Musk and these so-called philanthropists and all these other talking heads of these corporations. They're just talking heads, and ultimately they want to push this agenda. So I'm going to play a couple of minutes of this video and let you hear some talking points and show you why this man is diabolical. All right, so here we go.
About the concept of the
In fact, let's go.
Very important, which is like, what does it mean for the budget deficit? What does it mean for the economy? What does it mean for
And I'm going to say this. Where the hell did this guy come from? Yeah, we understand that he was the co-founder of PayPal, but like before then, prior to 2023, I haven't really heard anything about this guy. And maybe I'm just out of the loop, which sometimes that does happen. There's so much information going out to the point we do so happens to miss things, but I don't really know too much about this dude. Now, all of a sudden, when the WEF comes out with all this, well, we want to bring a new world order and digital bank, central bank digital currencies and Palantir and all this other shit. Now, all of a sudden, now this guy is taking us to the mainstream stage. And when you look at him, he just looks like a complete psychopath, man. Okay, like he sit back and watch horror movies and masturbate. The kid's getting raped. Okay, no beard. He got the sociopathic stare, the big nose. How you know he's a small hat, the crazy ass haircut. You know, this guy's a complete psychopath, man. And this is who's ruling over you. You got a bunch of crazy lunatics, blood raving lunatics that govern your world, man. And the entire world does not see this. Okay, because the guy was basically breaking down. He said, well, how the hell are you going to get people to consent to this? And he didn't really go too much into that, but you get the point.
Politics, one of the conversations, we had a few, recently was, you and I had was, does it change the calculus for China invading Taiwan, where, if we have an accelerating AI revolution in the military, is China falling behind? And will this, and maybe on the optimistic side, it deters China because they've effectively lost. And on the pessimistic side, it accelerates them because they know it's now or never. If they don't grab Taiwan now, they will fall behind. And either way, this is a pretty important thing. It's not thought through. We don't think about what AI means for geopolitics. We don't think about what it means for the macro economy. And those are the kinds of questions I'd want us to push more.
There's also a very macroscopic question that you're interested in that, will pull on the religion thread a little bit here. You have been giving talks recently about the concept of the Antichrist, which is a Christian concept, an apocalyptic concept. What does that mean to you? What is the Antichrist?
How much time do we have?
We've got as much time as you have to talk about the Antichrist.
All right. Well, I could talk about it for a long time. I think
the Antichrist, which is a Christian concept, an apocalyptic concept. What does that mean to you? What is the Antichrist?
How much time do we have?
We've got as much time as you have to talk about the Antichrist.
All right. Well, I could talk about it for a long time. I think there's always
in the Antichrist. You saw the look he gave him, right? Because, like I mentioned, the common Christian concept of an Antichrist will be is just one guy. And in fact, we're gonna break down what an anti-Hamashiach is, because essentially it's not just one guy. Okay, it ain't just Barack Obama like back in 2008. Everybody thought that this demon Barack Obama was Antichrist, which he was a Antichrist, but he's not. There's no such thing as the Antichrist, But the people don't know that because they don't understand the scriptures.
The question, how do we articulate, some of these existential risks, some of the challenges we have, and they're all framed in this sort of runaway dystopian science text. There's a risk of nuclear war. There's a risk of environmental disaster, maybe something specific like climate change, although there are lots of other ones we could come up with. There's a risk of, bioweapons. You have all the different sci-fi scenarios. Obviously, there are certain types of risks with AI. But I always think that if we're going to have this...
Look at this dude looking at his ass. He's looking at this dude like, this nigga's full of shit. And the guy that interviewed him is very well aware of the agenda that they're trying to bring forth with this New World Order stuff. Look at this dude is looking at his ass. He's looking at him like, you piece of shit. Like, you sit up here and you telling me one thing, but your whole reality is to overthrow mankind and put everybody in this digital prison. And that's essentially what these devils want to do. All right. So anyway, let's listen to the jargon, because what he's saying is a bunch of empty words, a bunch of swell words. He's saying a lot, but he's saying nothing at the same time, because he's trying to really throw the guy off. And a person that doesn't have a spiritual ear, this shit goes right over their head.
Frame of talking about existential risks, perhaps we should also talk about the risk of another type of a bad singularity, which I would describe as the one world totalitarian state. Because I would say the political solution, the default political solution people have for all these existential risks is one world governance. What do you do about nuclear weapons? We have a United Nations with real teeth that controls them, and they're controlled by an international political order. And then something like this, is also what do we do about AI and we need global compute governance. We need, a one world government to control all the computers, log every single keystroke to make sure people don't program.
And that's essentially what they want. So basically, he's telling you straightforward while trying to make it seem like he speak on these things and this is what's happening in the world, exactly what your company is. It says the irony of the founder of Palantir freaking out about the authoritarianism is insane to me. It says he actually named his company after the surveillance tool of an evil wizard and can say all this with the straight face is insane, but he's not the founder. Okay, Alex Karp is. All right, he's the co-founder of PayPal, this guy, Peter Thiel. So, yeah, so anyway. Let's get the precept real quick. Psalms 55, and let's start at verses 21. It says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. So yeah, he sounds good. He's articulate. When people see this devil, they're like, oh, he's just a sweet old white man. But if you look at him, this is the look of a freaking crazy psychopath. This is a psychopath here. Okay, this is the mind of a murdering psychopath, a murdering devil, if I ever seen one. And don't be surprised if he got some links to CIA. It could be CIA because a lot of these corporations are directly tied into the CIA operations. A lot of times the CIA, they fund it, and they disguise it on the BlackRock or Vanguard or what is it called? Palantir, which is essentially from the Lord of the Rings, which allows them to see into past and future events. He named it Palantir because AI is all knowing. That's their version of the omnipotent power. That's their version of the Most High, or essentially the Holy Spirit on the left-hand side, because it's omnipotent, right? But essentially, it's a computer program. But it says here, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. It says his words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. So he's basically declaring war on you people in a passive-aggressive manner, because from hindsight, oh, he don't seem that bad. He seems like a cool man. Yeah, he's innovating technology. I can put on some headsets and I can be immersed in GTA 6 and cover and shoot. Shit, why not? That's a good invention, right? Because it sounds good, because people are sold on the idea of convenience and alleged freedom. But in fact, this is nothing but a digital prison, So that's why that guy brought up the whole concept of the Antichrist, because according to them, this is what the Antichrist will come and do. So I looked up Antichrist, and Antichrist just goes into anything that's against Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, the truth. You come up against the ministry, hell, 2/3 of our people are anti-Hamashiachs, man. Nate is an Antichrist, all right? Nate is the Antichrist. If there ever was one, it'll be that nigga Nate, just talking shit. But anyway, this is the book of 1 John 2:18. It says, little children, it says, it is the last time. As ye have heard, the Antichrist shall come. Even now there are many Antichrists, whereby we know that this is the last time. And that just essentially means anybody that's up against this truth. Verse 22, it says, who is a liar, but he that denieth Yahushua is the anointed. It says, he is an Antichrist that denieth the Father and the Son. So essentially, an atheist can be an Antichrist. So Peter Thiel, is an Antichrist, but there's no such thing as the Antichrist, okay? This ain't just one man that harbors all this power. Okay, you have an elite and a secret cabal that runs the world's affairs, and they set up talking heads like this clown right here to push their bidding and to do their bidding by paying them billions of dollars on the back end. So you think he's not going to go for it? Of course he is, man. Okay, these men come from a family of technocrats, man. Eugenists and technocrats, and they're set up for these positions. Okay, he was probably being prepped to be in this position since he was a boy. This is why a lot of times they send their kids to school, prep school, like around 11 and 12, because prep school, they prep you to govern world affairs. So he was probably one of those children. Okay, he just wasn't some random nerd that got straight A's and ended up going to Harvard University or Princeton or whatever, the other one, Columbia or some shit. No, it wasn't like that. He just didn't make it by chance. He was handpicked to make it. Okay, and you would be a fool to think otherwise.
A dangerous AI, and I've been wondering whether that's sort of a going from the frying pan into the fire. And so the atheist philosophical framing is one world or none. That was a short film that was put out by the Federation of American Scientists in the late 40s. It starts with a nuclear bomb blowing up the world, and obviously you need a one world government to stop it, one world or none. And the Christian framing, which in some ways is the same question, is Antichrist or Armageddon. You have the one world state of the Antichrist, or we're sleepwalking towards Armageddon. One world or none, Antichrist or Armageddon, on one level are the same question. Now, I have a lot of...
Retire if you mastered these AI tools.
Man,
Teenagers are building businesses with AI, while the only
thoughts on this topic, but sort of one question is, and this was a plot hole in all these Antichrist books people wrote. How does the Antichrist take over the world? He gives these demonic, hypnotic speeches, and people just fall for it. And so it's this plot hole. It's this daemonium.
Right. It's implausible.
It's a very implausible plot hole.
Right.
But I think we have an answer to this plot hole. The way the Antichrist would take over the world is you talk about Armageddon nonstop. You talk about existential risk nonstop. And this is what you need to regulate. It's the opposite of the picture of Baconian science from the 17th, 18th century, where, the Antichrist is like some evil tech genius, evil scientist who invents this machine.
so you see the irony of this shit, man. Oh man, this is the book of 1 John 4:3. It says, "And every spirit that confesses not that Yahushua Hamashiach is come in the flesh is not of the Most High, and that is the spirit of Antichrist." All right, which proves that those small hats are not they're Antichrist, because they don't even believe Yahushua came the first time, so they're completely off. But it says, "And that this is the spirit of Anti-Hamashiach, wherever ye have heard it shall come. And even now already it is in the world." So he's nothing more but an Antichrist as well. He's not the Antichrist, no such thing. But he is a form of an Antichrist, and he knows it. That's why the dude is looking at his ass like, you piece of shit, you. 2 John 1:7, it says, "For many deceivers are entered into the world, and he's nothing more but a deceiver." Okay, deceiver goes into the word diablos, which means devil. It says, "Who confesses not that Yahushua has come in the flesh." This is a deceiver and an anti-Hamashiach. And it's not the fact that he's not confessing that the Lord haven't come in the flesh, but the stance he take in tandem of that and what he's trying to accomplish is deceitful, makes him the devil. Okay, he's the devil. He's a race of, the Edomites are a race of damn devils, man. Okay, and ultimately they want to put that microchip in your ass. So this is the book of Revelation 20, and I'm going to start at verses 1. And it says, "And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid a hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan." That's talking about Esau. It says, "And bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season." So right now we're in a little season, and the deception is at an all-time high. Okay, the scriptures say, "Never trust thy enemy," and he's an enemy of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, including his people. All right, Peter Thiel, he's nothing but a talking head, a technocrat.
Take over the world. People are way too scared for that. In our world, the thing that has political resonance is the opposite. It is the thing that has political resonance is we need to stop science. We need to just say stop to this. And this is where, I don't know, in the 17th century, I can imagine a Dr. Strangelove, Edward Teller type person taking over the world. In our world, it's far more likely to be Greta Thunberg.
Okay, I want to suggest a middle ground between those two options. It used to be that the reasonable fear of the Antichrist was a kind of wizard of technology. And now the reasonable fear is someone who promises to control technology, make it safe, and sort of usher in what, from your point of view, would be a kind of universal stagnation, right?
Well, it's more, that's more my description of how it would happen.
Right.
So I think people still have a fear of a 17th century Antichrist.
Yes.
We're still scared of Dr. Strangelove.
Right, but you're saying the real Antichrist would play on that fear and
Yes.
say, you must come with me to avoid Skynet, to avoid the Terminator, to avoid nuclear Armageddon.
Yes.
And I guess my view would be, looking at the world right now, that you would need a certain kind of novel technological progress to make that fear concrete, right? So I can buy that the world could turn to someone who promised peace and regulation if the world became convinced that AI was about to destroy everybody, right? But I think to get to that point, you need one of the accelerationist apocalyptic scenarios to start to play out, right? To get your peace and safety Antichrist, you need more technological progress. Like, one of the key failures of totalitarianism in the 20th century was it had a problem of knowledge. It couldn't know what was going on all over in the world, right? So you need the AI or whatever else to be capable of helping the peace and safety totalitarian rule. So don't you think you need your worst case scenario to involve some burst of progress that is then tamed and used to impose stagnant totalitarianism? You can't just get there from where we are right now.
Well, it can.
Greta Thunberg's on a boat in the Mediterranean, like, like protesting Israel. I just don't see the promise of safety from AI, safety from tech, even safety from climate change right now as a powerful, universal rallying cry, absent accelerating change and real fear of total catastrophe.
I mean, these things are so hard to score, but I think environmentalism's pretty powerful. I don't know if it's absolutely powerful enough to create a one world totalitarian state, but man, it is.
I think it is not.
It is
in its current form.
It is. I want to say it's the only thing people still believe in Europe. They believe in the green thing more than Islamic Sharia law, or more than in, the Chinese communist totalitarian takeover. And the future is an idea of a future that looks different from the present. The only three on offer.
And the fact that he's putting it out there like that, because it has to work. That's one thing about the elites. I forgot what they call it. But basically, in order for the ritual to really succeed, you have to put it out there in hindsight, like even in the news, sometimes they propagate certain numbers of colors and movies, and they got what they call predictive programming. And what happens is essentially they put it in the script, and then, that's the way of showing the world, like, well, look, we told you what happened, and then all of a sudden it happened. Like in that new Top Gun movie, they showed you the Iranian facilities, and all of a sudden, coincidentally, last week, Trump bombed those Iranian nuclear facilities, which that's kind of up for debate at this point, but you get the point.
For in Europe are green, Sharia, and the totalitarian communist state, and the green one is by far the strongest.
In a decaying Europe that is not a dominant player in the world.
It's always in a context,
right?
And then I would, I don't know, we had this really complicated history with the way nuclear technology worked, and we didn't really get to a totalitarian one world state, but by the 1970s, one account of the stagnation is that the runaway progress of technology had gotten very scary, and that Baconian science, it ended at Los Alamos, and then it was okay, it ended there, and we didn't want to have any more. And when Charles Manson took LSD in the late 60s and started murdering people, what he saw on LSD, what he learned, was that you could be like Dostoevsky, an anti-hero in Dostoevsky, and everything was permitted. And of course, not everyone became Charles Manson, but in
Charles Manson,
my telling of the history, everyone became as deranged as Charles Manson.
But Charles Manson did not become the Antichrist and take over the world, right? We're ending in the apocalyptic.
No, but my telling of the history of the 1970s is the hippies did win, and we landed on the moon in July of 1969.
Bullshit. Psalm 17, and I'm gonna start at verses 9. It says, "From the wicked," matter of fact, let's start at 8. "Keep me as the apple of the eye, Hide me under the shadow of thy wings from the wicked that oppress me, from my daily enemies who can pass me about. It says they are enclosed in their own fat, and with their mouth they speak proudly. Yeah, this guy is proud as hell. Okay, because they really believe in his spirit that they're gonna get the new world order on, and they're gonna get it up and running, and they're gonna eliminate 6.5 billion people. That's essentially the goal to the elites. It says here, who can pass me about? They are enclosed in their own fat, and with their mouth they speak proudly. It says they have now compassed us in our steps. They have set their eyes bowing down to the earth. Yeah, technology, man. You know, meaning that they can, Esau can zoom in on you and see a thread of hair on. Literally, they got satellites that can zoom in and see a blade of grass on the concrete. Like, that's how sophisticated the technology has gotten. So with this Palantir shit, you know, followed by Stargate, which they put 500 billion in, this is all part of this global surveillance, man, that they're quickly getting up. And it says here, like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, it says, as it were, a young lion lurking in the secret places. Okay, so they're everywhere. You just don't see it. But it says, arise, O Lord, and disappoint him. Cast him down and deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. Because ultimately, you know, technology is a weapon. They're weaponizing this, on the minds of the people. It says, from men which are thy hand, O Yahweh, from men of this world, which have their portion in this life, and whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasures. They're full of children and leave the rest of their substance to their babes, man. All right, so let's listen to some more, and then
Woodstock started 3 weeks later, and with the benefit of hindsight, that's when progress stopped and the hippies won. And yeah, it was not literally Charles Manson.
Okay, but I want to stay with the Antichrist just to end, right? And you're retreating. You're saying, okay, you know, environmentalism is already pro-stagnation and so on. Okay, let's agree with all that. But we're not living under we're not living under the Antichrist right now. We're just stagnant, right? And you're positing that something worse could be on the horizon that would make stagnation permanent, that would be driven by fear. And I'm suggesting that for that to happen, there would have to be some burst of technological progress that was akin to Los Alamos that people are afraid of. And I guess this is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, you know, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done.
Oh, come on, man.
So far, right?
Yeah,
I mean, isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing. I
mean, to be clear, I don't.
Of course, you devil, you gonna say that. Of course. Why would you just come out and deny it? I mean, admit it when practically this is all you've been saying. It's irony, man. These motherfucking devils, they're crafty. Because he thinks by him speaking about it, that takes the light off him, and essentially, he's just a puppet in a bigger scheme of events, man. That's really it. But just the fact that he tried to deny it, like that's gonna take the light off him, bro. We already know. The spirit is revealing you, devils, man.
I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe. But is this so preposterous, what I've just told you, as a broad account of the stagnation that the entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism? This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and and we've submitted to, the FDA regulates not just drugs in the U.S., but de facto in the whole world, because the rest of the world defers to the FDA. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission effectively regulates nuclear power plants all over the world. People, you can't design a modular nuclear reactor and just build it in Argentina. They won't trust the Argentinian regulators. They're going to defer to the U.S. And so it's at least a question about why we've had 50 years of stagnation. And one answer is we ran out of ideas. The other answer is that something happened.
Psalm 64, and I'm going to start at verses 6. It says, they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them, and the heart is deep. But Yahweh should shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly they should be wounded. So they should make their own tongue and fall upon themselves, and all that see them should flee away. Yeah. I mean, they basically telling on themselves. That's how sloppy they've gotten. All right, this is the book of Job 27. And I'm going to start at verses... let's start at verses 13. Matter of fact, let's start at verses 8 and we'll jump around. 7. Let my enemy be as the wicked, and he that riseth up against me as the righteous. For what hope is of the hypocrite, though he have gained when the Most High take it away his soul? Yeah, so it's null and void at the end of the day, right? But going down to verses 12, it says, behold, all ye yourselves have seen it. Why then are ye thus altogether vain? Because they know the end game. They know that eventually this place is going to be destroyed. And they know they go into slavery. And just the pride, like the scripture said, the pride of thy heart have deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. So they're operating in a deceitful spirit, telling themselves, nah, that ain't going to happen. But the Lord said the heavens should declare your iniquity, man. And the earth should testify of it. So it says, this is the portion of a wicked man with Yahweh, and the heritage of oppressor, which they should receive of the Almighty. So that's essentially it, man. But anyway, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. I'm going to put this interview in the description. You brothers out there, you can listen to it or, get what you need to get from it, whatever you may need. But anyway, with that, Yahweh Shem Yahushai brought the thumb. Shalom, Baba Ba.